Conrad's dilemma goes beyond just the fact that he's in love with Belly, who is about to marry his brother Jeremiah. There's a much deeper struggle between his duty to his brother and his love for Belly that's making him wrestle with his own sense of character and integrity. Understanding this makes the show so much more complex and moving to watch. So today, let's take a deep dive into Conrad's story in episode 4 and see what the show is trying to tell us about his internal struggle and the deep nature of his love for Belly. By the way, this is The Summer I Turned Pretty from the perspective of a former English teacher, where I talk about the story we're all watching unfold in season 3. Over the course of episode 4, we see Conrad's brief hopefulness for his situation with Belly turn into resignation as he realizes and assumes that Belly and Jeremiah are perfectly happy together. When Conrad and Belly first see each other in the episode, their surprise is paired with a flashback to the Christmas that they spent together. That Christmas is one of 2 times that they were alone at the summer house, and both times hold significant meaning in their relationship. This flashback and Conrad's demeanor in this moment tell us that he was thinking and likely had been hoping that he would get to have a special moment with Belly again, especially in this house that holds such private significance for the two of them. This is confirmed by the fact that the moment Conrad realizes Jeremiah is also there, he quickly looks away as if breaking from a trance of wishful thinking. Conrad then has a conversation with Belly and Jeremiah. And I just need to say this now, that the writing and execution for this episode is so good because there's so much subtlety. Every dialogue, gesture, and expression is intentional in telling us something about these characters. So in this conversation, we learn that Conrad has been at the summer house for the 2 weeks since the engagement announcement, and that he's been ignoring Jeremiah's calls this whole time. We watch Conrad lie about his reasons for doing this, saying it's because he's just trying to lay low after being so busy and that he's going back soon to his clinic in California. We know he hasn't been that busy and that he's been fired from the clinic. So this lie tells us that Conrad's at the summer house for a reason that he doesn't want to share with Jeremiah and Belly. And that reason goes back to what we talked about at the end of episode 3, how Conrad is at a metaphorical fork in the road where he has to decide between honoring his duty to his brother and support this marriage, or following his love for Belly, even if it means betraying his brother. That's why he's alone at the summer house. He's been biding his time and trying to figure out what he should do. I know some of you may be thinking, why doesn't he just come out and tell Belly how he feels and let her decide for herself? It's because Conrad already had the chance to do that years ago and didn't take it. Remember, in season 2, when Belly told Jeremiah that she wanted to be together, Jeremiah, out of respect and consideration for everyone involved, went to Conrad and said, if you love her, she deserves to know, and if she picks you, I'll let her go. Everyone, including Jeremiah, knew how much and how long Belly had loved Conrad. That's why he said, as long as Belly thinks she still has a chance with Conrad, she can't really love someone else. So Jeremiah gave Conrad the chance to be with Belly, but Conrad chose to shut it down and told Belly he didn't want to be with her. It's a decision that he would come to regret deeply, but it's what allowed Belly to move on to date Jeremiah. So after 4 years of letting them build and invest in their relationship, upon their engagement, Conrad's going to come out now and tell Belly, wait, I actually do love you? Do you see what a huge betrayal that would be to his brother? This is why Conrad's character has such a huge internal conflict, because 1, he created this situation, and 2, he wants to honor his duty to his brother and his mom to do right by Jeremiah. To Conrad, it's a matter of integrity. So here in this scene, we see Conrad trying to play it cool and keep things lighthearted and nonchalant. But what he's really doing is trying to gauge where Belly and Jeremiah are at. After he and Jeremiah hug, the camera cuts to Conrad 9 times during this conversation. And 6 out of those 9 times, Conrad has his eyes on Belly. He is trying to figure out, is she really 100% on board with marrying Jeremiah? Are they really this happy together? And when they tell him, yes, the wedding's going to happen for real, Conrad realizes he may have a lost cause. This is confirmed when we next see Conrad on a phone call with Agnes. He tells her he's coming back to California soon, and her response is a sarcastic, things going that well? Meaning he would only be going back so soon if things were not going well in his situation with Belly. Then they have an exchange that's very important for us, the audience. Agnes says it's so bizarre that Belly and Jeremiah are getting married, and Conrad's response is that he actually doesn't think it's that strange, that because they've known each other their entire lives, it's a reasonable possibility. This is very revealing about Conrad, because he says something very different to Jeremiah in their next conversation. While surfing, Conrad makes a comment to Jeremiah about how the idea of him and Belly getting married is kind of ridiculous. As the audience, knowing what Conrad just told Agnes, that them getting married is actually not that bizarre, this comment tells us that Conrad doesn't actually believe it's that ridiculous, but rather he's trying to discreetly discourage Jeremiah from going through with the wedding, without revealing that he's totally against it for personal reasons. We see this in the way that Conrad tries to use Laurel and Adam's disapproval as an excuse, saying, well, if Laurel and Dad both don't think it's a good idea, maybe they have a point. And Jeremiah actually picks up on this because he says, since when have you cared about what Dad says? At the end of this conversation, Conrad not only fails to dissuade Jeremiah, he also upsets him by not supporting the wedding. After Jeremiah leaves in a huff, Conrad slaps the water in frustration, not just because this wedding is going to happen, but also because this whole thing is beginning to jeopardize his relationship with his brother, and that's the last thing Conrad wants. This, again, is the source of Conrad's internal conflict, his duty to honor and support his brother versus his love for Belly. In the next few scenes, we see Belly being upset with Conrad for what he said to Jeremiah, and later, Conrad overhears Belly and Jeremiah laughing and making fun of him for saying them getting married is ridiculous. From Conrad's perspective, he has to now accept that it's a lost cause. At this point, his brother is mad at him, Belly is mad at him, and the two of them are united in their mockery of him, seemingly unfazed by what anyone has to say about the wedding. So to Conrad, he has to assume and accept that they're perfectly happy and that there's nothing left here for him to pine about. He's not going to stay and try to ruin their happiness or further ruin his relationship with each of them. That's why he books his flight to go back to California. And this brings us to my favorite scenes in this episode, when Conrad overhears Belly crying in her bedroom and what he decides to do afterward. But I'm going to run out of time, so I'll continue in part 2.